Hope you follow along. All right, welcome back to this. We are looking at how to retrieve data. In the past session, we looked at how to capture data, and we said what you need to look at is basically the names of the controls that are carrying data off. Okay, so this we had already had soft drinks. Then we can also add spirits. Okay, spirits, and that is in shelf 3. Okay, and then click at create. So we have already created, so we have 2. So when I click at browse, I should be able to see spirits, and the spirits are in shelf 3. Okay, so when we are interested in getting the data out of the database, this is the function that adds data to the database. Okay, so this time around I want to add another function that will help us to add or extract data from the database. Okay, and we want to extract data from the categories table. Okay, so we shall write a function to show all categories, all cats. Right, the number of things that we need to look at when we are extracting data. Okay, so this one is not going to look at if a button is clicked or if a button is not clicked. We want that every time their page runs, something is shown. So one thing that we need is to retrieve data out. So we shall show all categories from the categories table. Okay, that's a comment, and then we shall begin extracting our data from show all categories. Okay, and this is going to select. Okay, so there are a number of ways you can use the command of select. Select is basically used to select which number of columns you need to be visible. So we basically need 1 and 2. Okay, just this category name. That's all we need for now, right? So, but we can as well select everything. Since we are interested in knowing the category ID, we shall need it at one point when we are transferring data across pages. So we shall select everything out, and that is the use of the star. Okay, otherwise if you don't use the star, you're going to write independent category titles separated by commas. Okay, but to summarize it all, we just say select star from categories. Okay, select star from categories, and then we shall terminate. Then we shall write the result. The result is capturing data from MySQLi query. This SQLi query is going to capture data still from, it needs a connection first. So the connection is this. Okay, so realize that I'm not rewriting the connection every time that I need to use it. I'm not rewriting, I'm just referring to the function name. That's the way. Otherwise it would require me to write the function name here. The function, it's really tasking. So I'm reusing the code over and over. Okay, so after the connection is being established, then I'll need to write the statement. Okay, to execute the statement, and then I'll need to take count of how many records do we have in the database. Okay, so number of records. Okay, so numRec, or number of records. How many do we have in the database? So to do that, we shall just use the SQLi num rows. How many do we have in the database? And where is it getting its results from? It's getting it from this, okay, from the connection there. All right, so get the query executed and find for me the number of results that we have. How many rows do we have in the database? So even if now we echo the num rows, it will basically tell you have 2 records. All right, so let us try it out and we see. Echo num rec. So suppose we are interested in knowing how many rows that we have in the database. So we shall tell the customer that we have what? We have this number, okay, dot. We have this number of, we have 17 categories in our shop. Okay, so we have the number of records that we have in the database in our shop. Okay, so if at all we are interested in just to show the number, and we are just interested in this, so we shall just get this, copy it, Ctrl C, and we put it to our interface. So how many do we have? All right, so we shall just push can we push it there? We can push it down there. All right, or we push it there. It depends what you want to do. Anyway, so let me just add one more row. Okay, so let me just add one more row up here. So table, and then we have insert row. All right, so at this point we need some number there. So we go to the split. Okay, we need data to be at that point. Okay, so we see where my cursor is. So at that point I need my PHP code there. Every time you need to execute a PHP code, you just need to start with that. Okay, and we terminate. So if we go back to our page and we press enter, so basically we have 2 categories in our shop. Okay, so even if now I add one more, you realize that this number is going to keep on changing. Okay, so we have the soft drinks, we have, okay. All right, so this time around let us just extract the data to be visible here. Okay, so this one is going to basically be there. Okay, we just need the code to be there at that point. All right, so we are back to our code, and we are saying after getting the number of records, we have basically 2 records in our database. Now we need to know how to get the records out of the database. That means we need to loop through our database to extract these records. So looping through the database is not that difficult. You write the number of loops that you can use. We have the for loop, we have the while loop, we have the do while loop. We are going to use the for loop. For $i, we initiate it to 0 and we terminate. Then we test whether this 0 is less than the 0 is the same now as $i. Is it less than the number of records that we have in the database, which is $num record, and then we terminate. Is it less than the number of records that we have in the database? Then if it is less than that, then we shall increment by 1, $i plus plus. Then we shall execute the command that we would wish to be executed every time the record is fetched. Okay, so we need, as we loop through the first iteration or the first output, we need to extract the data out. okay, as we loop through. And that is the way we do it. To extract the data, we need to say rec or row. We are drawing a row now. The row, this is just any variable. So row my SQLi, we are looking at how to fetch the data array. Okay, we want to fetch an array. An array is a data type that can combine or can store various values at the same time of the same data type. Okay, that's what we call an array. So we basically have it as we are calling the array out, fetching the array out, and we are fetching from where? We are fetching the array that is captured from the execution of the query. Okay, that's why we are taking in this result. After the query is executed, it is stored in there. So we extracting the array basing on the result taken in after the execution of the query. Okay, so after execution of that query, we just need to spit out or to output. That means we are going to use the echo. Okay, echo will let us just enclose these in divs, in div tags. Okay, so there we are going to concatenate it with what? We are going to concatenate these. Let me just do it this way so that we avoid mistakes. Okay, so at that point we need to extract the category, this category name. Okay, at this point we need to extract the category name. Okay, so at that point we need the category name, but what are we extracting? We are extracting the row. All right, so a row, and what is it extracting? If you are familiar with the arrays, let me just treat it as an array first. Arrays, we consider this column, the first one, to be at location number or index number 0, and then this is location index number 1, and then index number 2. So we're interested in index number 1. Okay, so we shall put 1 there. If you have not chosen to use 1, you basically need to use the title of that column. Okay, so for now let us just output using the array format. So there, and then we click file and then save, changes made. So every time now when we refresh our content, we should be able to see we have these drinks. Okay, so it's possibly when we made changes here, we did not save. So saving changes, Control S, and then we have this. Okay, so we have this, and then we have the names. But I'm not interested in, we have 2 categories. Okay, we can terminate that one out for now. Okay, so we can terminate this line out. We comment it out for now, and it is not going to be executed. Control S to save changes made. Then we refresh. Okay, so we basically have categories and have these. So let us now add, we have soft drinks, we have spirits, we can have its. Okay, its are in shelf 4. I click create. I basically have this one is captured successfully, and it does not show instantly, but when I refresh, it appears. Okay, if you want it to be executed successfully and it is really showing instantly, we could possibly put the code that is appearing somewhere there. We can reposition it. There is a reason why this one is, we just need to reposition it, and we, instead of appearing there, we appear there. Okay, the reason is that okay, so we are saving changes. The reason is that once the page is loaded, PHP preprocessor is going to read line by line. Okay, so it needs to run the code first and then it executes the rest. So me, with my repositioning of this code, when I cut it out and I place it somewhere there, okay, it is going to be of help. I'm saving changes made, that every time I add content, this time I want to see the content visible. Okay, and I say, okay, I want to add eats. I have added drinks, so I just need eats, drinks, and I need beers. Okay, let me just I'll get clothes. Okay, so shelf 5. Okay, so possibly shelf 5, and then I click at create. Okay, so we basically have clothes appearing instantly. Okay, so this means that I repositioned the capture, the message category captured successfully from this point on top of this. The reason is that once I execute, when I click at create, it executes, and by the time it executes, the system is going to read it first, and later it's going to execute other codes. That's why when I look at this and look at this code right there, you're going to end up seeing the code, the execution is going to happen. It's going to add content first, and after adding content, it's going to go downwards and then show what we have in the database. And that's the way we end up seeing whatever data that we add is basically visible there. Okay, so even if we add more content to do with them, this time I want shoes. Okay, and shoes, and shelf, it's going to be shelf 6. So I add, and shoes will be appearing there. Okay, and that's a better way of displaying our content. Okay, so when I do that, basically our category is showing the content minus every time we add the category name and the shelf, it basically shows that content. You realize that this time around, when you look at this, it's going to be executing the same command there. I want the categories to be appearing there. Okay, it's going to be almost the same code that I need to use. Okay, and which is really nice. So let us find a way of getting that code there. Okay, when you look at this code, you might realize that it's going to be a little different, slightly different in the execution. The reason is that it's going to look at the way it's going to display there. It's in a form of a select command. Okay, yet I want that every time I add content, it should be able to show on the next level. So how do we do that effectively? That's it. All right, so what we shall possibly do, we want to write a code. We want to rewrite a code, and this one will show all categories in select categories, or select all categories. Okay, just write select all categories. One thing I wanted to look at is that I need to mention this and change it to option, and then I change also this to option. Okay, so that we basically have this returned every time. Okay, and then the value it needs to return is the ID. Okay, we want that every time it captures, it's capturing an ID. Okay, so when it is capturing an ID, and ID is on array location or index number 0. Okay, so index number 0 is going to be our ID. Alright, so if we are to capture this, we copy, and then in our code, for this, okay, there, in this code, we want that the select, we are getting rid of this option here because it's what we are looping through. So instead of that, we basically need the PHP code there. So when I refresh my page, I should be able to see the code really working out well. Okay, code really works well. Then the rest of the content is just submission of this. Okay, and once we add that, we should be able to see the data taken in at the bottom. Okay, that's what we want to do. All right, so let us now add our data in the next session.